Hello historians, Miss Melton here. This video is dedicated to learning about the Congressional Plan for Reconstruction. Let's first start by looking at our textbooks from Scott Forsman and Pearson. So this is a picture of Richmond, Virginia, which had been destroyed during the Civil War. And this is going to be talking about what Congress's plan for Reconstruction was after the Civil War. So Congress and Reconstruction. The Republicans who controlled Congress didn't trust Johnson. He was a Southerner and had been a Democrat before becoming Lincoln's vice president. Members of Congress began developing a new plan of Reconstruction. They passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866 to grant freedmen full legal equality. Congress then passed several Reconstruction Acts between 1867 and 1868. The acts divided the former Confederate states into military districts. The president sent federal troops to the South to keep order and enforce emancipation of slaves. The acts required Southern states to write new state constitutions giving African American men the right to vote. The acts prevented former Confederate leaders from voting or holding elected office. Congress also passed 3 new amendments to the Constitution. An amendment is a change or addition. You're going to read about these amendments later. Johnson opposed many of Congress's actions. He argued that Reconstruction Acts were against the law because they had been passed without the Southern states being represented in Congress. Because remember, at the time, the Southern states were still a part of the Confederacy and had not rejoined the Union and the United States federal government. He said passing laws with half the country unrepresented was unconstitutional. Johnson used his veto power to stop Congress. However, Congress was able to override Johnson's vetoes. Congress continued to make its own plan. Angry about Johnson's attempts to block their laws, the Republicans in Congress tried to impeach Johnson. Impeachment is the bringing of charges of wrongdoing against an elected official by the House of Representatives. If an impeached president is found guilty in a Senate trial, he can be removed from office. In May 1868, the Senate found Johnson not guilty. However, Johnson's ability to lead the nation had been seriously weakened. So, write who supported the idea in each part of the Venn diagram. So think about who wanted to give pardons, who wanted the South to be punished, but they both wanted to reunite the country. Johnson wanted to give pardons, and Congress wanted the South to be punished. Now let's look at the Scott Forsman text. Congress passed the first Reconstruction Act in 1867. The former Confederate states were divided into 5 military districts, and about 20,000 federal troops were sent to the South. The troops led by military governors were responsible for maintaining order, supervising elections, and preventing discrimination against African Americans. The Reconstruction Acts required Southern states to write new state constitutions giving African American men the right to vote. The acts also prevented former Confederate leaders and military officers from voting or holding elected office. So, Congress had to step in after all the problems that Johnson's plan had caused. Here's what was Congress's plan. 1. Congress wanted to keep the Republican Party in power and help African Americans to keep them loyal. Congress divided the South into 5 military districts to be governed until new governments could be put in place. 3. Congress disenfranchised rebels, so they couldn't vote or hold office. Rebels was another word for the Confederates. Congress passed the Reconstruction Amendments, abolishing slavery, giving African Americans men the right to vote. And Congress created the Freedmen's Bureau, and passed several civil rights bills. So who were the radical Republicans? They saw Reconstruction as a way to punish the South. They were advocating the opposite of what Lincoln proposed for Reconstruction. So makes us think, would this have happened if Lincoln hadn't been assassinated? Because remember, the Republicans were kind of wanted to go against what Johnson's plan was, but Johnson's plan was pretty much like Lincoln's plan. But Congress didn't trust Johnson because he was a Southerner. He had owned slaves before, and he had wanted the southern states to be in Congress before they made any votes on anything. So Congress thought that Johnson was taking the Southern Confederate side, and so they kind of were at odds with each other. So the effects of Lincoln's assassination on Reconstruction. If we think back to the other chart from before, President Lincoln was assassinated on April 14th, 1865. So you can use this chart to kind of guide you on all the things you should have learned in Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction, Johnson's plan for Reconstruction, and Congress's plan for Reconstruction. Also think about these three questions. What did many people in the North think of Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction? What did Congress do that made President Johnson angry? And explain what happened to President Johnson in 1868. So if you know those answers to those three questions, and you can kind of follow along and fill in the blank with this chart, you will be good to go on.